Okay, I think I got it. And it'll be even simpler and better. Let's do this again. Right, like Spider-Verse, right? But they keep retelling the origin. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a whole package. Let's do this again. I'm going to give you guys a whole project. The project will be entitled Collecting Game Clean. It'll be a zip file. Okay? And so what are we doing? The goal now is to get your stuff into Collecting Game Clean. Okay, that's the overall what we're doing. Everybody with me? Okay. So I've got in this example here Katrina's stuff, which is Penguin stuff, and I want to get Penguin stuff into Collecting Game Clean. Remember, you can have more than one Unity project open at the same time. And again, we haven't changed versions. We're still in 2021-1. Okay, so here's this stuff. What do I need to do? We're going to, one, download the new, Collecting Game Clean. Okay, and again, that'll be a whole project. So it's going to be a zip file. You open it, and that'll be a whole project, right? You're going to need to export a package, not a project, a package of your stuff. However, make sure your stuff doesn't have the other folder. There's a couple ways you can check for this. And that's before you make the package. Okay, so before you make the package of your stuff, you check in the project that you're working in and make sure that it doesn't have anything that's going to cause a problem. All right, so here's Katrina's stuff. Number one, I look over here for the other folder. It's not there. That's good. If it is, I select it, I right-click, and I say delete. Get rid of that. How can I check to be absolutely sure? I'm going to search in my project for third, right? And as long as you didn't name anything third, I don't think anyone did, hopefully. What would be bad here is that you would see third-person controller, right? Because that's all the stuff in the new project. And it's gone. It's not there because it should be in the other folder. You deleted the other folder, and now you're fine. How do you make a package of your stuff? All of your stuff is in one scene that you've been working on, right? And so everything is in there. Your meshes, stuff, and when you make a package, it should find the materials that are on the meshes, the shaders that are on the materials, all that business. Right-click and say export package. And you can say export, right? In this case, I already have this package for Katrina's, so it'll take a minute to chug through all that stuff. I'm not going to do it right now. Everybody with me so far? Okay. And at that point, you will have successfully gotten your stuff into a package without a bunch of potential conflicts. With me? Okay. Now we're in the clean project, Collecting Game Clean. And I want to bring in my stuff, right? So in Collecting Game Clean, if you go to Scenes and open Collecting Game, which I think should be what opens when you just start, it should be my template with one notable change is that the character has animation. And so this you'll be able to refer back to as an example. And yeah, if this TMP thing comes up, you can just not worry about that for this second. Okay, we'll need to say import TMP essentials. This is just for the text to show up. I'll just turn this off. There we go. Once you do that, the type should show up then. Okay, and then when you play the game, the character should be running, jumping. Great, super. All right, so double check that that is all happening before you bring your stuff in. Now bring your stuff in. We will import package, custom package, and I've got Penguin package here. Let's open that. Making sense so far? Okay, so the only package you have to worry about now is the one that you make. Okay, I've, cross your fingers, managed to import all of the other packages that we need into the project, and I'm going to hand off the entire project, so you shouldn't need to add anything to the project. Yes?
So it imports all of the animations that we have too?
Yes, as long as your animation is on the character, right? And so the character is in the game, the character has an animator, the animator references those animations. Those come along for the ride in the package.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because like, you know how it says when you create a new one, it saves to the file that it's in?
Yes.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah, no, that part of the package exporter I think is pretty good as far as it actually sending out the stuff that you need. Okay, we did get one error. Let's see what it said. Okay, so this one might be one issue, is that if you did have a couple of the other scripts in there that are in the example, this violates the rule of 2 scripts with the same name, right? And so I'm going to go to my scripts folder, right, which you probably had in yours, and make sure I get rid of anything that's a duplicate. So right here, we don't need this. And now we're good. Okay, so that's a manageable, you guys understand how to fix that problem, right? Essentially, you imported it, it duplicated the script. You can't have duplicate scripts. You can look where the scripts is. They probably all went into the scripts folder if that's where you were keeping all of your scripts. It sort of merged those folders and put the duplicate files in there, and now you're okay. Everybody with me so far? Okay, now let's go to Katrina's penguin scene. Let's just look for it. Penguin game. Let's open that up. Where's your penguin?
It's animation. I didn't add the top part because I was trying to put it into the capsule the first time around. So the animation is on the top part.
Okay. And let's see. So here, Katrina's got this adorable penguin. And let's just check the animation. So if I look at the animation here, I've got idle. I've got forward. Little feet moving, side to side, good. I've got jump. Good. So again, the jump, this is mission critical. The jump, when you animate, this is like the other project, you don't move it up, right? The scripts are propelling the object into the air. You're doing the movements in place. Right? Everybody's clear on that? Same thing with the landing. And so here, nice. Okay, that all works. Got a little squash and stretch in there. Cool. All right, and so let's go ahead and just rename this object penguin player. Playa. Okay, great. Now let's bring some things together. So this is where you want your character to be before you add the moving around functionality. Just looking at this real quick. I must have clicked on something else. Okay. Yeah, the animator is on, and that does all that stuff. Cool. Let's bring in the capsule player. And we'll just get player capsule and bring that in. And for the sake of simplicity right now, we'll take this player capsule. And let's move that onto our zone, at least right now. Is your world way off in the middle of nowhere, or is it? Yeah.
I brought the main camera in from the other original one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we can clean that up for a second. So here, the way I'm going to do this is, looks like you've got I'm going to delete that capsule and just grab everything and say create empty parent. I'll call this environment. And maybe just make something at 0 so I can see where that is. There we go. And just move my environment back over here so that the environment is not way off in the middle of nowhere. Cool. So if I make something now, there we go. Let's say 0. All right, that's better. Now, let's go ahead and add that capsule. There we go. Let's move the capsule down to where we would want our player to start. Sure, right about there. Wherever it is, I would want the player to start at. We're there. Okay, now let's go ahead and hit play once. And if we click over here, good. Our capsule's moving around, right? We don't have the camera following. That's the next step. The follow camera is also a prefab. Follow, if you look for follow, it should be right there. player follow camera, and bring that in. The player follow camera needs to know one thing: what to follow. And the way that this is set up is that if you look at the capsule, there's a specific object here that says player camera route. And that's what we want it to follow. Okay. So I'm going to click on player camera, player follow camera, and provide route to the follow. Now, again, test again. Test at every step, right? Don't do the big bang where it's like, I'm going to make a whole bunch of changes and then hit play and hope for the best, right? Because then you don't know what went wrong. If you test at each stage, then at least you're like, okay, that last thing I did, it was working and then wasn't working, right? So now I've got my capsule doing great, and I've got my follow camera. The follow camera, a few parameters here to look at is, in the player follow camera is the lens field of view. And so this, that's where you can adjust sort of how much we can see as we're moving around, right? And so this is, I have the player follow camera selected, and this is the lens field of view there. The other option is that in the, if I hit play right now, we should have the whatever you want to call this. Is there a name for this type of, where we have the mouse that controls the camera, and then this controlling the movement, right? You may not, it seems like maybe in some of the games having this view, like I could see how this is super useful for like
I think Zelda has that.
shooting a bunch of stuff and like, but in our games it's a little bit simpler. If we don't want to have this additional mouse moving, you can eliminate that here with lock camera position. Okay? And so this is in the third person controller that is attached to the player capsule. And so I'm going to press that, and now if I play the game, this view will be locked and the mouse doesn't make the camera move all around, right? I think that may be a good choice for a lot of the games in that, with the mouse moving, I would definitely end up in some situations where I couldn't see what I wanted to see, right? And anyways, that's where that is. Those are the two things that stuck out to me as being ones you would want to adjust. Everybody with me there so far? Any questions so far? Right? And it's working so far, so that's good. Everybody on the stream, you guys getting this? What are we doing next? We're bringing in our penguin or player. And so let's go back and grab penguin player. And our penguin player, how do I know it's ready to be integrated? It has an animator component on it, and that animator component has all of the animations. I can check this by looking in the animator window. If I'm looking for the animator window here, window, animation, animator, that's this window here, right? And all of them should be in here. Piddle, pajump, landing, and forward. All right there. P for penguin? Yeah. I like planding. And pajump sounds like a penguin jump. Oh, it pajumped. Cool. So that's ready to go. Let's bring this into our hierarchy. So I'll bring penguin player down and put it underneath the top one. Right there. Okay, so it's at the same level as capsule and player camera root. Now, I want to make sure it's in the same place, and so I've got to zero it out so that the penguin is in the same place. And so it's coming here, scene. This is providing our penguin anchor point is good. I'm going to turn off the always animate. Yeah, it is off. I don't know why it's choking. Okay. Okay, some of your transforms are a little, because our penguin is in the stratosphere here when I zeroed it out. And so let's go down the chain and reset some of these. There we go, that one was way off. Cool, so now the penguin is there. Cool. Now, I don't want to see the capsule anymore. I do not, for the sake of simplicity, want to delete this. Okay, don't delete the capsule. We can just make the capsule invisible by turning off its mesh renderer. Okay, so we'll just turn that off, and we have penguin right there. Because we want to keep the capsule's collision information, so on and so forth. Yeah, everybody with me? Cool. Great. Now, let's test again. Okay, we're okay, except the penguin doesn't face the right direction. And so we just need to get our directions figured out. And so here, another reason to do these things independently is that forward is always which one? Z, blue, right? And so the way it's configured right now is that the capsule forward is blue. And so here I can come in and rotate my penguin to face this direction. Okay, so now if I come in here and rotate this thing on the Y, should be like 90 degrees. There we go. Now the penguin is I don't select the penguin. The penguin was not done in the forward direction. It's not terrible. It's fixable, right? Because we have these extra hierarchies. And so now, if I select capsule, the penguin's facing forward for the capsule. Let's test it. There we go. This idle strikes me as a little melancholy. I don't know. Like maybe he needs to look up every once in a while. I mean, I guess when he starts moving and brings his head up, he won't look. And yeah, I guess it's just he's kind of moving with his head down. Strikes me as kind of depressed, but. Cool, great, this is working. Penguin's facing the right direction. Let's get the animation going. Okay, so now we've got our Animator. Couple steps here to get going. Essentially what needs to happen here is the information about what's going on with our character is created by the third person controller. Okay? There's a bunch of stuff in the third person controller that sends out information. What kind of information? It sends out information like, did you jump? It sends out information like, how fast is this penguin going? And or the character or whatever. And it also sends out information is, you'll see this often, grounded. Did the penguin misbehave and have to stay at home? See what I said? It was funny there, I used the other meaning of grounded. Okay. It was hard to tell if you guys got it because you weren't laughing very hard.
I'm laughing on the inside.
Okay. All right. Grounded means like, is the penguin touching the ground, right? So in a jump, right, then your grounding is false, but when you're walking around, your grounded is true, right? And so all of this information is generated by this script, and we need to send this information to the animator. Okay, so this is a little bit different than the way our other game worked, in that we need to configure the animator to receive this information, right? And I tried to do this as simply as possible, but this is just a more complicated setup than the other game. Okay. So in our animator, we're going to need to do a few things that we haven't done before. We need to receive this information. And so that is going to be in the animator window up here under parameters. So if we look at the list of parameters here, we need to add parameters to the animator that's going to receive this information. And so we need to add a float for speed, okay? Capital S-P-E-E-D. You got to get it's got to be this. This is, you're sending a variable through code, and if you spell it wrong with the wrong capitalization, it won't work, right? So you need to get these exactly right. Speed. We need another one for the grounded and the jump. And those are not numbers, they're just true or false. Like, am I on the ground? True or false? Did I jump? Right? And that's another true or false. Like, did you press the jump button? Because the jump button doesn't have like a height, it's just yes or no. And so those are both bools. So a bool for grounded, and then a bool for jump. There we go. And so I've added those things. The other thing we need to do is that we need this third-person controller. It's already making all this information. It's all in the script. But it needs to know where to send it, like where the animator is. And that's this thing here at the very top. And so you need to provide the game object that has the animator on it, right? This is why you only want one animator. If you had multiple animators, it's not set up for that, okay? And so in our case, it's going to be this top level of the thing that we drug into this. And so Penguin Player gets provided here. And so that it knows to send all of this information to the animator that is on Penguin Player. Now, we're pretty good. Let's think about the next part here. Is the speed. So, just a review. This is essentially all this is called a state machine, right? That's not a Unity word. That's like a programming game design word. You have all these states. You need to switch between them. So this is what happens at the beginning. And just to review this, in order to make new connections, you can't drag these arrows, right? In order for the first arrow to be set up, you would right-click on something and say, set as default, okay? And now, if I were to hit play, the penguin should go right into the forward animation, not the idle. And it does, okay? So we're good there. It is great. It's good. The game looks really great. Now, the other new part here is that we're going to use speed to switch between forward and idle, right? If the penguin isn't moving, it should be doing the idle. If it is moving, it should be doing the forward. Everybody with me there? In order to do that, we need to use something new called a blend tree. Essentially, this is another box that's going to use the speed number to switch between those two animations. Blend tree. So here we're going to right click and say create state from new blend tree. Give this a blend tree. And this is like a sub box. If you double click on it, now you're in the blend tree, right? And you can come back up or down, right? So there's, you can see how this would get more complicated. You got boxes and boxes and boxes. Cool. Now, we need to bring our animations into our blend tree. Was that speed there when I just made it? I think it was by default. All right, so we need to add motion here. And up here, we have the, what are we using to actually make this decision? And you can see that all the parameters that we made, actually only speed shows up because speed is the only one that's afloat, which is good. And so here, let's bring in P idle, and let's bring in P forward. There we go. Cool. And so look what happens here. This is what we get. Now we have the blend tree and this one and this one. And so you can see what's going to go here. Like essentially, as this dials back and forth, we go from this one to that one. Right? Conceptually, this isn't crazy, right? Like this number is how fast is the penguin going. If it's not going fast at all, we should have idle. If it's going fast, we should have forward. Everybody with me there? Cool. And so here, we want to get the threshold. And so I'm going to turn off that automate thresholds. And I think this should work. So we have the threshold for idle is 0. And I'm actually going to bring this down. Let's say 0.1 for forward. And now let's go back up here to layers. And now this blend tree, I want this to be my default state, where I start. And so I can right click on this and say set as default. There we go. Let's save and test. There we go. Let's look at the blend tree. And hold on, let me turn off the, I'm going to turn on that camera moving so that I can look around on the other side. There you go. Lock camera position. Cool, that's good. And now it works, right? And so this is idle when his head's down, right? And then when I'm moving around, we're doing the forward animation. And when I stop, it goes back to head down, the idle animation. I know, it's pretty exciting. Hold on over there, right? For those of you at home, Katrina was astonished and dropped her phone. Astonished. Would that be a good description of?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, astonished. Makes sense. The only thing here is, I feel like the forward animation needs to go a little faster, right? And we can adjust that. So let's come back here. So this window here, again, just to review, these were my settings for the blend tree, right? So I have idle first, then forward. The threshold for idle is 0. The threshold for forward is 0.1. Automate thresholds is off. And then this graph here is essentially the graph of, it doesn't, the other one we did, it switched between animations, sort of just switch. This system actually fades between the two animations, right? And so instead of the head just like snapping down, it fades down, right? Sort of interpolates between both positions. Let's make them a little bit quicker. And so we need to do that in the actual animation clip. And so if we go to forward here, P forward, oh yeah, it's right here, cool. In the tree here, we should be able to adjust that. And so if we made this like 3 for the speed of the forward, let's see what that looks like. Much better. Maybe a little fast. Right, and so now, right, it's not that the character is moving faster, it's just that the animation is playing faster when it moves. Everybody understand that? That speed setting here is just the speed of the animation, not the speed of the character. If I wanted to adjust the speed of the character here, that would be in these settings here at the beginning, right? So the move speed would be the, where you would do that. If I wanted my penguin to be slower because he's a penguin, I can make that 1. And now that's cute. It was a little slower. So this is where you would go to adjust actual speed, game speed, and then in the blend tree, this is where you would go to adjust the speed that the animation plays back. Clear so far? Okay, let's get the jump going. So again, this animation graph ends up looking a little more complicated, but when you think about it, I think it makes sense. Cool, so we got this blend tree, and I'm gonna move this idle and forward out of the way. I don't really need them because they're in the blend tree right now. And now we need to incorporate this jump and landing. And we need to think through this a little bit first. We essentially need to set up a triangle here so that when we're moving, when we hit the jump, we want to play the jump animation. And then once we ground, then we want to play the landing animation and then go back to the blend tree, so that we're back to our idle moving. Both of these animations, we do not want to loop. That's critical, all right? Both of the ones that we did already, they loop. And by default, everything loops. And so let's turn off looping for both of these. And so I'll go to P jump here and say don't loop this thing. And I'll go to P landing, and also turn off loop time. Okay, so both of these are non-looping. Wish there was a button here to do this, but there's not. Cool. Now let's set up our pathway here. And so I'm going to say right-click, make transition, and I want this to go over here to P jump. Right-click, make transition. This goes over to landing, and then right-click, make transition, and this goes back to the blend tree. So we end up with this triangle here of this to this to this to this. Everything moves through that series. Now we need to tell it like when we want to do this stuff. And so now I'm going to set that by clicking on the arrows. Okay, you get different options over here if you select a state versus if you select a transition. The transition is the actual arrow thing. And so here, this condition is the thing that triggers it. And so if we look at this, we don't want to use speed, we want to use jump. Right? So if jump is true, play jump. Here we go. And so our conditions here are not speed, but grounded. I think it's grounded, not just ground. Let me review that in a second, but I think I got it. And then if there's no condition, when it's done playing, it goes back to the other thing, right? And so essentially, once we play the landed animation, it'll go back to our stuff. The other thing we want to do here is, I believe for both of these, well, let's just test that and see what that looks like. I think we'll have the basic path, but we may need to make a few changes. So let's go ahead and hit play. That's still working. And let's try jump. Okay, you can see that we do step through the triangle. It's just really delayed. Like here I am pressing the button. Right, and so it's too delayed, right? It's doing this because it's because of this fading mechanism that I talked about before, right? Where it tries to interpolate between things. And so we can bypass that in these transitions. And so for this transition, right here, I'm going to say has exit time. I'm going to uncheck that. And then this one, I am also going to uncheck that. And so now, let's give it a shot. There we go. This is still working just fine. There we go. So now, we get that. That's good. Look at that. That's good. It looks like he's trying to fly. I might go back in, because the wing motion looks good, but I might make the head like snap up a little bit faster for the jump, right? And all of the animation is here, so that's pretty easy, right? All of this rigmarole here, this is independent of the actual keyframes, right? So you can still go back and tune your keyframes once you see it all in the system to make it work a little bit better, right? If you wanted to do that here, for instance, the jump, let's come on to jump and look at that. And so here, I gotta select the thing, there we go. All right, and so here's the head rotation. And I want that to happen faster. So maybe just grab these and move that this way a little bit. And now I can go back, and that should update all of the other, all the state machine is doing is reading those keyframes. And so now we just change that. There we go, that's much better. And so it looks up quicker. Maybe even exaggerate that a little bit. If you make the character slower, it also makes the world seem bigger, right? Because it's like, ugh. You guys all watched March of the Penguins, right? It takes them like 2 weeks to get from the edge of Antarctica to the middle of Antarctica to stay on the eggs for 3 months or however all that works. Cool. Let's just review what happened at the Animator step by step. The first thing I did was create my parameters. Right? This is where the Animator receives information from the script. And the 3 parameters I created were speed, which is a float. Remember, this is code, so you got to spell it speed, capital S. The other one I created was a jump. This is a bool, right? Short for Boolean. And the third one I created was grounded. Everybody remember that great joke I made about it? That was pretty great, right? Grounded, another bool. And so I created those parameters first. Then I right-click in the empty space. And what was the thing that manages the idle and the forward based on speed? What is that thing called? It's right on the screen there in orange. What's that? The blend tree, right? And then in the blend tree, I added the idle and forward. And then I made the blend tree the default. So if we look at our blend tree settings again, remember blend tree is like a sub box, so I can double click and I go inside. And then here, I added these right here by clicking this plus and added idle and forward. I made sure that this is set to speed. I turned this off and I use these as my thresholds. Your idle threshold should certainly be 0. Your forward threshold, yeah, that should be fine, 1. Unless your character's moving like really slow or something. And then these settings right here for how fast the animations play, these will be different for you, okay? So these will not be the same. It depends on how fast you made the animations and then what exactly you're going for, right? How fast is that person? Oh, he's not rowing. He's just sort of. Yeah. I mean, is there a speed control on the boat there? Is that how those work? Yeah, who owns a boat? Anyone? This is not really boat.
Oh, for the yeah, there's a for bigger ones, it's like a little thing you push and it just goes faster. But for these ones,
yeah, I haven't been on a small boat like that. I've been on much larger boats recently. I use boats like that to get to my other boat. I'm kidding, I don't have a boat. Nor do I even know anyone who owns a boat. Cool. And so that's the blend tree. Back here, Then we created the triangle, right? And so we've got jump and landing. I created, right click, say make transition from here to here, here to here, here to here. And then this transition, we had to say, I click plus, and I said it, has to use the jump. We also turned off exit time. This transition, I said it has to use grounded, and then we also turned off exit time. Okay. You may need to adjust the speed of these. Like, let's say your landing thing was just too slow, right? In which case, selecting this and making it, maybe twice as fast, right? A higher number is going to be faster, like 0.5 or 0.1 would be slower. And so now the landing will happen faster. Yeah, it's really fast. I mean, that little squash there is really great. I would exaggerate that. You give him a little, like real squishy. And everything is working there. Okay. And again, I made this possible. I'm going to zip up my clean game here in a minute and give that to you. So you'll take your stuff, export a package. You'll make sure that package doesn't have any of the third-person controller stuff in it, right? That's the part that would throw a wrench into this process. And then you'll bring your package into the new clean project. That project already has the packages that you need, so you don't need to worry about any of that rigmarole from before, right? As far as adding Cinemachine or adding input, all of that is already in place. And so we just did that here. What do we think? Simpler, right? That was better? I mean, that's as simple as I could get it, I think, without having to do a whole bunch of things. The error, which I would imagine coming in here, this hash thing, we don't need to worry about that right now, would be the duplicate scripts, but everybody understands how to fix that, right? You look for, you can search, right? You can look in the console and it says animation speed is a duplicate script, something, something. Well, you can come to your project and you search for animation speed, and then 2 scripts should come up and you can just get rid of one. The other thing you're going to need to add the other information. Your player capsule well, let's leave it at that for now. That was a lot. Make sense? And everybody understands that for the jump animation, you're not actually making it go up in the animation. The controller script makes it go up. Okay. Yes.
I think I only technically have 3 because there's the idle. No, that's 49. There's the idle forward.
No. Everybody has forward. There is no left and right. Forward is it just turns and goes forward. So there's no left and right. I mean, if you want to have some sort of,
because like the way this works, the boat, like the guy has to move it in order for it to turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I made like an animation where the boat kind of turns and then the engine moves the other way, so it looks like he's moving it. I I don't know if there's a way to make that more seamless, so that I can go from turning it to back to like going forward.
Yeah, we're just not set up for it.
Okay, so I
Just the forward.
just the forward.
Yeah. There's no directional thing coming from here. So let's just add the forward. Okay, people listening online. Questions? I'm going to remove the other stream from earlier so that no one watches that and gets confused.
So we just delete the folder that says other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to end the stream here and then upload this to the front page of Canvas. It'll say collecting game clean zip. And that's the one you'll bring down and merge your thing into that. Everybody understands that direction? Yes. That you're taking your stuff and you're putting it in the new project I hand off. Not the other way around. Okay, let me do that.